Welcome everyone. My name is Josh and this is Juicy Conversations. Thanks for tuning in. This is episode number 2. And yeah, we basically wanted to start a series of conversations to check in to see how creatives are adjusting to the new norm and what they're doing to thrive in it. So little housekeeping rules. You guys signed in on YouTube. Just use a little chat bar on the side and just share us your thoughts, any insights and things like that. Any questions, just write it down, send us your love, and then at the end we'll save it up for Q&A. And then we'll go from there. All right, so my next guest is the Associate UX Director at Autotrader.ca. She's the former Red Academy Director of Design. Please welcome the amazing Karina.
Woohoo! Hello, hi.
All right. So if you can just share with us just a little bit of yourself, your background, what do you do, things like that.
Yeah, sure. Hey guys. So yes, I do work. I work at Autotrader.ca right now as a UX associate UX director. I have been in the design industry for the last 12 years, more than that now, in the digital space, sort of essentially. I started out as a graphic designer, as a digital illustrator originally. I went to art school. And so I actually pretty quickly found my passion for data-driven design approach, and that's how I sort of got into UX without knowing that that's what it was really called. And then in the last 5 years or so, I've been working in director level positions in a way that those kind of that senior level positions doesn't necessarily, like, it's not really about a title, it's about what is it that you do. And for me, it was really management, a lot of strategy, and actually working with the executive team on looking at product and looking at design as a way to deliver business results. And so my specialty now is really working with the companies on getting them the business performance that they're expecting and looking at design, facilitation, culture as a way, as a vessel to deliver the results that you want. So yeah, that's where I'm at now. I'm also a mom to an 18-month-old girl, Mira, her name is, and she literally just turned 18 months yesterday.
Wow.
And and then on top of it, I am in the few days away from launching my own company that I co-founded with 2 wonderful people, Hyperminds. And so I'm also an entrepreneur. That's what I can say.
Wow, that's amazing. How are you doing so far? Like, how are you adjusting with everything? Even just like with your company and like things at home. I know we discussed a little bit about that, but yeah, how is it overall?
I mean, it's challenging. I'm not gonna downplay that. I've got a pretty good setup myself, but I think generally speaking, it's definitely been a challenge. Like it's the anxiety that comes with living through a global level pandemic and what that means, and the impact that has on me personally, as a person, as a human, but then also me as somebody who's got a couple of households that I'm supporting, sort of financially and emotionally, and like I have to be a rock in a lot of ways. But then also just looking at, just how unfortunate people can be across and what I've seen, and I have a lot of friends in Russia, and different stories and the way this has been impacting other people, and so it's constantly sort of counting my blessings in a way, because I have family, I have a job, I live in Canada, and I live in BC, which is actually flat the curve quite a bit, compared to people who don't have maybe any of these things, and they're alone, or they lost their job, or their family is sick, so I think from that perspective, like, empathy is something that I think is a part of our jobs, generally speaking, creatives and designers specifically, especially UX designers. So it's very hard, like, that I think is a very hard thing that we don't necessarily take into account.
Mm.
And then, I mean, obviously, right, you're looking at the impact that this is going to have long term. You're looking at,
Yeah.
potential recession, like all these different things. So the challenging is an understatement, really, and I don't I think that's just what it is, and we should just face that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And then, yeah, how are you? So you're obviously working from home and stuff like that. How
Yeah,
was it?
yeah,
Was it like a drastic change all of a sudden,
yeah,
or was
yeah.
it like a casual thing to kind of get your rhythm, or sorry, a gradual thing?
Um, yeah, so working from home, I mean, has been a bit of a dream for so
Oh,
many
okay.
people, right? Like for
Uh-huh.
so many people. I wasn't one of those.
Okay.
Like I've never really like been attracted to like remote job postings because I never really thought it was for me. Like I need to go into an office. I need to get away from my house
Hmm.
as much as I love my daughter, and I need to get away from being a mom. Like, and I'm very honest about that. And so I think for me, like going into an office has been an amazing experience, generally speaking, and I'm very extroverted, and so for me, it's I need people, and so working from home was definitely not something that I was necessarily looking forward to, but
Hmm.
uh, yeah, and working with my team, like I manage a team of almost 10 people, eight,
Okay.
nine of us, and I wasn't really sure how we're going to do that if we're really set up as far as the workflows and the ways of working. And I think for us, it's and Trader as a company is also not necessarily like we don't really have a working from home policy. So we like it wasn't a
Mm.
practice that we had as a like on a company level. So working with a lot of remote teams has like that was kind of a question. And
Gotcha.
so yeah, and since then like it's been a month, and I have to say that like I love working from home. Like um, I'm very surprised by how how wonderful it is for just if it wasn't a pandemic, it
Yeah.
really does provide quite an amazing life work balance, which is, I mean, that's a bit of a sort of cliche, but
Yeah.
I did a workout this morning, finished at 8:30, took a quick shower, and at 9 I was working. Like that's
Wow.
something that you can't really do when you have to commute,
Yeah.
even if it's a short commute, which for me it is relatively short, but
Mm.
anyway, yeah. So adjusting from that end, like working from home has been great. I think looking at on the other hand, like I have on my team, there's a couple of people that have kids, and I think that's kind of what I really want to dive into quickly is
Yeah.
just because for me like it's been okay. I can really see the impact that has on other people, and that's something that I know that I'm more of an exception than a rule, that how challenging it can be working.
Hmm. Gotcha. Can you share a little bit like how at Auto Trader like you manage your team like at the office, and then like what structure you guys use in terms of even like communication and stuff like that, and then
Yeah.
how has that changed like in terms of digital platforms or yeah, setting up
Yeah,
systems like
so
that.
for us, it was we had two people working from Toronto office, and then the rest of us were in Burnaby, and from that end, it was good that we had some rhythms and some routines that were actually set up already for us to stay aligned and and to actually stay in touch.
Yeah.
And so from that end, like nothing has really changed that much, except for we got a lot closer. Like before, we would get in the room, would have our daily stand up sort of in the morning with the design team, and six of us were in the room,
Yeah.
and then we had a couple guys that were like the faces in the computer that were in Toronto.
Oh,
And what
okay.
we're finding is because we all became faces, you really got a lot closer, and we really like that actually leveled out the field quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so from that perspective, we actually got working a lot better because we were communicating a lot. We weren't in as many meetings, um, and so we had a chance to connect face to face a lot more. So
Mm.
that was really great. And I think from the perspective of some of the routines that we established, um, in the last 6 months that I've had this role was really a lot of the peer feedback, peer sort of reviews, accountability from that perspective that we developed.
Mm-hmm.
For example, we had every Monday we had a showcase event for the design team, so everyone had to show something that they have done in the last week, and then every Friday, and then on Monday we'd also align on the priorities for the week, and then on Friday we had something that called the Loop, which is actually an invention from Hyperminds, where
Oh, okay.
we looked back at the week that we just had, and it was really just looking at, did I accomplish what I said I would,
Hmm.
so that was sort of something that I'm calling an accountability loop. And so we still had that, and then we had daily stand-ups, and we had a daily peer reviews, which were really important because as a manager, obviously as a director, that's accountable for all the work and all the design and all the experiences that we come up with, I don't want to be the bottleneck for us actually looking and approving something. And so that's why we put in place a peer review and peer sign off.
Oh,
So
neat.
I'm not the only one who can sign off on stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, anyway, so there's a couple of those things already in place, and that really helped us stay on track and stay really productive.
Mm.
However, the thing that really changed, I think, and that's where the conversation around working from home and parenting is so important. For I think five of us have kids, and a couple of people, like I have babysitters. Like I have my parents who come in every single day, and they're with my daughter from 9 to 5, from
Mm.
8 to 5, really, which allows
Wow.
me and my partner to work full time, have another business. Matt has another contract, so really, like there's a lot of work that we can do.
Mm-hmm.
For the rest of my team, but that wasn't the case. Like they didn't have any external help. All they had was them,
Right.
couple kids in a one-bedroom apartment for a lot of them. Like
Yeah.
so, how can you accomplish, even if you have a partner who's, let's say, on mat leave, or they don't have a job, for them to be the only person who's taking care of the kid all day while you're working is just not realistic.
And how old are their kids?
Well, so for one person, it was 1 and 5, 2 kids in a one-bedroom
Wow.
apartment.
Okay.
Like for another one, it was like 1 and 3. A couple other guys that
Okay.
had older kids who were a little bit more self entertaining, and
Yeah.
but still, right? Like you, obviously, sure, you like all the screen time and all that stuff. Like all those rules kind of go out the window because you have to do something. Like,
Yeah.
but that's like again, it's only maybe an hour, a couple hours, and so I think with in that sense, what has changed for us was a very honest conversation on I cannot like it's unrealistic for me to be at my computer from 9 to 5,
Mm.
and me being in this lead position, I was able to work out a schedule that works for my team, which I really hope that other managers and HR and just companies understand that, and they have those conversations with employees,
Mm-hmm.
and so for a lot of them it was that they're going to work really early before
Mm.
kids wake up, and then they're going to work maybe an hour or two during the day, and then they're going to work from 7 to 10 because that's when the kids go to bed. And
Yeah.
and at this point it's not about how many hours you actually put out. It's really about the work that you
Mm-hmm.
commit to at the beginning of the week. You say that with my schedule, with my circumstances, this is what I can do. And then because you're the one who's judging that this is what I can do. And then at the end of the week, you deliver in your own, like at your own pace, in your own time, at your own, hours that you really create. And I think that's where it's so important, and that's kind of going into my advice to people is like have those conversations with your managers, have the conversations with your HR departments, because it's not it can be very challenging.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I get like when if you're in the same room and you're all working together and you'll have like the casual conversation of small little questions here and there, like it helps. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I guess now everything's like everyone's in their own house, like it takes that extra effort to like ask those questions. And it's almost like those little pings on Slack or whatnot. It's just like more distractions, and it kind of throws you off your groove. Do you think that's the case? Like working remotely compared to being in the same office?
I think for me it was a little bit like for me it's always kind of the case because of just the amount of teams that I'm and sort of projects and just like people that I was supporting on that level, on the
Yeah.
strategy level. But I think for I think for my team, and they can correct me if I'm wrong. I think probably a couple of them are listening in. Is was probably actually a little bit different because they were able to just like focus and
Mm,
sure they get the pings, but they only get the pings from each other.
right.
As opposed to before, it was the pass buys and the drop buys, and like people just coming in and developers and like whoever. So I think it's I don't
Mm,
know. I think it got a little bit more quiet, but maybe I'm not actually sure. It's
yeah.
I think that the really like the real distractions are from home. Like that's where I
Yes. Yeah.
and even if I know that somebody's taking care of my daughter, but she's crying, I
Hmm.
can't help but like tune into that and like see what's going on.
Yeah.
And then also just the like the temptation to go out there and like give them a hug,
Yeah.
like just see what they're doing and stuff. I think that's a little bit more of a distraction for me personally.
Yeah, I guess it's good and bad because I think if you just want to say hi to your daughter, then you can just walk over and say hi. But then also you need to set those boundaries as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
exactly.
find people are going through like new ways and defining, yeah, their new boundaries, like what's appropriate, and like just adjusting to the new routine. So it's
Hmm.
pretty interesting. I know we were talking earlier before, but like this is just like such an abrupt shock to the system, and like for some it curbed like their current momentum. So I guess yeah, for you, like I'm curious how you've shifted. I know you shared a little bit about like hyperminds, but it was yeah, maybe you can share about I guess the launch that's happening next week, and would that have happened if this all yeah if you had the extra time to do that? So yeah.
Yeah, so with hyperminds, yes, absolutely. Like I can have a full time job and a business that I'm launching, because I have like amazing childcare system.
Hmm.
But with hyperminds, it's interesting. So for those who are not familiar with hyperminds, which you wouldn't because we haven't actually launched yet, we are a culture and brand transformation company. So we work with companies on looking at what is not working for them as far as their business goes. It might be something that as simple as that they're underperforming in their revenue, for example, like they're not hitting their targets, so
Mm,
consistently. And it's always going to be culture and it's always going to be brand because the two are really the same. Culture is your the way your employees experience your company,
hmm.
you experience your company, even if you're just a one person company, like, the purpose and the mission and the why, and why did you even start the business, and why do you do what you do, all of those different things that are internal facing, are manifestations of the culture in a lot of ways. Culture is that glue between sort of the people and the conversations and how you do what you do. Really,
Mm,
it's how is really your culture interfacing. Brand is your external experience. That's how other people experience other your customers and what obviously,
gotcha.
right? So, and for us, the way we're looking at it, your product, your experience, for example, UX design, website, brochures, I don't know, Google Ads, whatever. All of those are manifestations of your brand, and
Right.
there's a misalignment between the two. You're really not going to. It's not. You're just not going to perform as well because something is broken. There isn't that flow, and the connection between the two.
Mm,
And so, for us, the way we deliver transformation is it comes in multiple forms, but a lot of it is going to be in facilitation, and we facilitate conversations and we facilitate change, whether it's through one-on-one coaching or if it's with a group sort of coaching, maybe it's a facilitated, sort of meetings, where we make sure that the conversations that need to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And from those conversations, you really see the transformation that ideas, innovation, all these different things that really come up. And so we are the co-founders is David Kohler. Maybe a lot of people know him.
Yeah.
Julie Tremblay and myself.
Awesome. How did you guys come together and like think up of this new company, or like even focus on like brand and culture? Like, what was the catalyst?
We've got like two fantastic people. Like I don't think anybody knows culture better than David, and I don't think anybody knows brand better than Julie. Like, for me, like my strength that I bring is in data-driven decisions, and so obviously we look at culture and brand from that perspective.
Okay.
It's always going to be data-driven, and the way we're going to deliver transformation is going to be through understanding the data that's going to tell us the story, and so
gotcha.
And so kind of those are the three pillars that we're basing our decisions off of. And with COVID, like what happened is really we should have been live a month ago.
Oh, okay.
Not even. I mean, like a little bit earlier than that actually was like end of February is when we're planning on launching. And the reason why we just like hit the pause a little bit on that was because we really had to think the way we're going to deliver transformation, if anybody has met David, is fantastic. Like it's the magic is in person, right? Like you meet that person, you're in the room. All of the brand kickoff sessions that we do, the way we're really getting information and really facilitating brand conversations is going to be through also those workshops.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all physical. Like all of that happens physically. And so if we cannot be in the same room with our clients, how are we going to deliver the value? And so that was really like, that is what really got us to really pause and think and look at where are we as a business? What are we going to do? How will we deliver the value that we stand behind? What's our brand promise and our product experience? And it's just, it's like last month, we've been really looking at that really hard and making sure that we have it covered, like that we're solid on that strategy. And taking the extra time has been actually amazing because we were able to have the conversations that we didn't have before.
Yeah.
We looked at our business with a lot of scrutiny and making sure that we're still doing the right thing and do we even have a business, and I'm really happy that we actually like this has been such a blessing for us to just pause and not launch when we did.
Wow, cool. So just to understand it better, so you're talking about like brand's more like the why, right? And
it's all the why. It's all it's all the same. It's two sides of the same coin, really.
Yeah.
We're looking at when people think about a brand, they think about a logo. They think about the colors. They think about like that's what really brand.
The tip of the iceberg, at the surface.
Exactly. Yeah. Because really, if you're using a mobile app, right, like Uber, right, like for instance, Uber is a pretty good app. Like using it, it's fast. There's some glitches with the map and whatever. And then what you're looking at is the rest of the experience with Uber is still the brand. It might not be the font, it might not be the colors or whatever the physical visual design, manifestations and the artifacts. But you're looking at their corporate culture, right? Their culture is the problem, which has caused their brand to suffer so much. And it's because there's misalignment.
Okay.
What Uber stands for externally doesn't match what they really are internally.
Okay.
And so when you have that mismatch, you have customers that are going for Lyft just because they don't want to be using Uber, because they don't want to be supporting that brand, that culture.
Right.
And obviously the brand suffers. And so really what we're talking about and what we're looking at is that it's two coins of the same, right? And two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So, brands like how other people perceive the company on various touch points, and culture is more of the internal. It's the how. So I guess have you guys seen? Is that where like you see the majority of the problem is that huge gap? Because obviously the companies would communicate themselves as one way and then obviously act another. And so through your facilitation, through conversations, that's where you would bring value to your clients. Is that right? Like things would just surface up where it might be in their blind spots.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. The blind spots and like we'll listen to what's not being actually said, which is a lot of
Okay.
like, what you're gonna if I were to ask anybody, let's say outside, and I'll say, hey, look at this website. What does that tell you? Like, what are the three keywords that come up, when you're looking at it?
Yeah.
They're going to tell you some keywords, and then they're going to not tell you some keywords, which is maybe what you're really looking for. And anyway, that's like a little bit of like where the mismatch between how you want to come across, how you want to look externally to people. I think with culture, it's interesting because with culture, the problems that we really see is like there's so many. There might be like retention rates of your employees might be really, really bad, and you've got a really high churn rate, and like the average for somebody who's gonna work at your company is gonna be a year versus, a benchmark for most is like 2.5 years now, right? And so you're looking at that and then you're asking, okay, well, what's the problem? And the problem with the retention rate isn't going to be that your hiring strategy sucks or that you don't have enough avocados in the kitchen or, uh,
Yeah.
not a good, corporate plan for your health benefits, whatever. Like
Right.
those are
Right.
not the reasons why people leave the company. They leave because the culture that is in the company is not, it's broken. It might be toxic, that's how maybe people can describe that, but it's not necessarily so obvious. It might be something else. It might be in the way of the way they work, and that's really why culture for people is so intangible that they think it's the events that a company would actually put on. They would think that it's like how would you describe your culture, and then people would say something like, oh, we have free beer Fridays, we have we go on hikes every
Right.
Sunday, like whatever.
It's more
That's not
the social aspect.
yeah,
Okay.
that's not culture. Culture is really how you work, right? It's how you go about your work. And so the four sort of ways of working is what we're calling them. There is how you make decisions in your company, how you solve problems, how you resolve conflicts, and how you communicate. So if you look at those kind of four things, we really start assessing how does communication happen within the company. Like something like a simple, I have to repeat myself 5 times,
Yeah.
5 different groups, can be so exhausting because you're doing that all the time that you're just like, I'm done. I don't want to work here anymore because this is all I do. I'm wasting time. I'm constantly talking to people. I'm always in meetings. So why is that, right? It's not about getting rid of meetings necessarily, although you probably should, but you're really start looking at, well, who's making the call in the meetings? How are they being actually held? Who's calling for them and why? So then you look at that and you unravel, like unsurface something, and then you look at the level below that and you really start digging really, really deep as to what is the root cause.
Wow.
So with design, like we will look at design and we'll look at the way we conduct research and we say, well, you got to ask the 5 whys. And it's really no different when you're looking at the culture and you're looking at at the problems that happen on the surface, and then you really start going down deep, right? And so that's what we do, because that's not accessible to a lot of people. We find even HR might not be, because they're so involved in their company. They might not be able to get that really deep level as to what's actually going on because they're too involved.
Yeah, it really helps to have like an external consulting group to see from the outside, right?
Absolutely, yeah, sure.
Interesting. So this is kind of, you guys are basically giving like your clients like business therapy. It kind of sounds like getting down to the deep levels of how they operate, and
we actually, it's like the metaphor that we've been using that we really like. And it kind of goes to the root of what we believe in with with organizations and just the future of work, future of work has been used so much. Like everybody says.
Sweet. Let's dive into this. Let's get juicy.
I don't want to get into that. It's really the way to look at work at organizations and just the workforce is that it's not cogs in the machine.
Right.
It's biological ecosystem. It's like an organism, right? And so if you sort of compare a company to a body, go to a doctor and let's say your back hurts, right? And you're like, man, like my back really hurts, So the doctor isn't going to look at the back on the surface and or maybe an X-ray. Like they might look at, well, they should be looking at it holistically. It's like, what's going on? Let's assess everything. They're going to take your blood. They're going to look at a bunch of stuff. They're going to take your X-ray. Maybe like CAT scan, whatever, right? Like depending on the issue.
Yeah.
So really, when we're looking and working with the companies, it's not about looking at the symptoms, which is fix my retention rate. I need to retain talents. That's a symptom. The problem is there's something else that's going on, and so we'll look at that. Like that's how we really want to be working.
Okay.
When you look at the company as an ecosystem, you're going to understand that it's a little bit more complex than just figure out what benefits to give to your people.
So what I'm getting at is because you guys, you're mentioning a lot of communication and facilitating to get that out. So I mean, these root issues that you're trying to surface, are they mostly people issues?
It's all people issues.
Yeah, I guess.
People is what makes your work.
Yeah.
We'll look at obviously with the background that we have in design. It's obviously if a company came to us and said, "Hey, look, our conversion rate, is 2% lower than we want it to be." Okay, cool, right? We can look at optimizing your experience, right, of your product, of your mobile app. But what is it that is in the way of your company, of your people that work there to figure this out for you? There's going to be something in the way of them getting innovative. I don't know really how to say that.
Innovative, yeah.
Yeah. And sort of creative and looking at what's going on, because people on the ground, people that are working your company know this best. They might need, sometimes, yeah, sure, you need external perspective, but not in the way of a product usually. People and designers and product owners and your developers know this product a lot better. So they're fully capable of coming out with a strategy that's going to give you not just 2%, but it's going to give you a lot more than that. Right. But something is in the way of how you work and how you go about your work that's getting in the way of the people to come up with a solution. So again, every problem the business might experience, I will bet my life on is that it's gonna come down to people, and it's gonna come down to the culture that you have.
Yeah.
And the culture is really the way you go about how you do your business, really.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the how you do it. Do you guys have a lot of suggestions or solutions on putting in place systems or softwares that you use? So for example, you talk about communication and you don't want to repeat yourself 5 times, and that frustrates people. Or it frustrates yourself. So do you have any suggestions for even people in our community of what you guys currently use or whatever? Is there anything out there?
I'm gonna tell you 2 words that all designers love, which is it depends.
Yeah. Okay.
Fair
enough.
It's Slack isn't a solution. It's not. Yeah. It can be. It might be. And that's where it's so dangerous, when we look at case studies or, companies like roundtables of CEOs, and one CEO says, "Oh, I have, I got rid of all meetings. I have no meetings at all. And that's amazing. It's been life-changing." And then another company is like, "Amazing. We're going to get rid of meetings." And then everything breaks because they're trying, it's not one size doesn't fit all. It's really going to be so tailored, and it so depends on your company, what you do, who's working there. Every body is different and every company is different because it consists of unique people.
Yeah.
and unique connections between those people, and sort of that culture is going to be always unique because well, the people that are working there are all different. No one is the same. And so I
Right.
think that's where it's so we really want, like, I think as society, just like a recipe for, the
Yeah.
problem.
Right.
And there isn't just one recipe. And that's the thing. And that's where I think I don't know a lot of companies that do what we do. Well, I don't know any, again, like we are unique, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the way we work and we go about finding a solution is going to be is going to be tailored to your company, and we're going to find a solution together. We're not just going to sort of helicopter in as an external consulting company and say, now you guys do this and this and this, and this is going to work, and we're going to help you for a couple of months, and we're going to leave, and then everything is going to break again.
Yeah. Right.
Because it came from elsewhere. It didn't
Mm.
originate from within the company.
Right. Yeah, that's really powerful. I think it creates more lasting value for sure. Wow, that's awesome. I can't wait for you guys to take off. It sounds good, especially like I know for me like like managing communication um, is a huge thing because even right now I just feel like we're in this age of like way too much communication. We got like I don't know how to manage there's certain protocols or etiquette, and I think people don't like haven't even caught up, and then let alone let alone my parents or our parents' generations, and like I feel bad for them, cause but like there's yeah WhatsApp, which is more like friend conversations, and then there's text messaging, and there's Slack for work, but even that, and there's email. So I was just talking to a friend today, and yeah, she runs like uh, a videography agency, and she's taking this time to just like I feel like this whole COVID thing, like the good, if I can say the good thing out of it is like it's time for people to slow down, to process. They have the time to process now, and even like so I was talking to her. I'm like, I wonder if that's part of the cause for like mental health issues, because it's like we have a hard time processing the mental capacity like of all the
Yeah.
conversations and communications that's been happening. So yeah, I'm curious if like if you experience the same thing, or do you have any advice on like managing communication? Sorry, that was a
Um,
lot.
yeah. Like I do. I have an advice. I think more probably what's more important now than ever is looking at looking at this time, and like we sort of started with adjusting, like how do you adjust for what's going on and whatever, right? And I think slowing down is obviously something that we're being forced to do. I
Hmm.
think businesses as people, like we're not like let's stop consuming as much and traveling as much, and just like even driving to different places and whatever, just stay home, right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are struggling with that. Like I know that I was like, I'm so used to go go go. It was really hard for me to just always just be home, like and
Yeah.
I find that, and so what I found really helpful, and I really hope that it doesn't sound obnoxious, so I apologize if it does, is that I I um I looked at what's going on, and I asked myself, what if this is just what happens now? Like, what if this doesn't change? Because I think the first
Right.
couple of weeks, I was personally operating at this is temporary, this is going to go away. I had like, and this is me being honest completely, and I think a lot of my friends are in the same boat. Like, I was having a drink every day,
Hmm.
and then I'm like, wait a second, what if this doesn't change? Like, what if this is now life,
Mm.
and not necessarily with the virus being as prominent, or maybe it is, right? Maybe we can go back to bars and parks and all that stuff, and how would my life look like, And I went through a bit of a 7 stages of sort of grief, and
Mm.
then moved on. And then I think that's where you really start accepting that slowing down is a good thing. You
Yeah.
start accepting that, like being socially distant from people is a good thing in a way that it forces you to connect with people in a way that you haven't before.
Right.
I think like for me now, when I'm FaceTiming with my friends, and even not just with friends that I see all the time, I'm now connecting with people that I don't like, that maybe I talk to once every 6 months or something like that. And I'm finding that now I'm connecting with a lot more people in a lot more profound way. Because it's
Mm.
also, we're all in this really like weird, like sort of, transition time, and really horrible time for a lot of people, like just struggling with mental issue, like mental health, right? Like struggling with solitude,
Yeah.
isolation, like all these different things. And you call somebody and they're at home, they don't have they're not like dressed up, they're not in a bar in a good mood because they finally got out, they're home, they're vulnerable, they're in a bad spot, like, and you start with that, like, hey, how's it going, like, how are you doing? And then they say, I'm not doing okay.
Mm.
And he can say that, I'm not doing okay. And because you know that so many people are not doing okay, that somehow makes it okay, because you're all in the same boat.
Right.
So I think with it is sure, like we're slowing down, but how are we using this time? And when we do slow down, what do we look at? And I think that's really the key to, I think, adjusting to this time, is just accepting that it sucks, like,
Yeah.
like we're in a bad spot, like, just like as a society, as a planet, as a economy, like all these different things, we're in a bad spot, but because we're in it together. And as cliche as that sounds, like, I
Yeah.
kind of hate like saying that, but I am also saying that because, yeah, like we like nobody. I mean, obviously, people are finding opportunities in this time, and then I think is also part of when you accept it and you move on, you start looking at it creatively, you start looking at, okay, what's good that's coming out of this,
Uh-huh.
and actually you can be a little bit better than, if you don't accept and you're just in a bad spot and you're like sort of resisting this. That's where I was for the first few weeks. I was just resisting
Right.
accepting it. And now I'm kind of transitioning into like,
That's the first stage of grief, isn't it? Resistance or denial.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's interesting. I think for certain people who can't sit with themselves or just with their own thoughts, it's a tough time because they usually like to keep themselves busy. So it's like kind of forced to kind of
Yeah.
face the inner demons, so to speak.
Well, and that's where, it's like, what I kind of want to say is, so when we move and we're constantly on the go and we're constantly doing things, like, I'm one of those people that's, I love myself the most when I'm productive, right? Like
Mm.
when I get up at 6 a.m. and I'm, present with my daughter and I'm engaged with her and I like love her, and I'm getting all these different things done, and I've got my like this business that I'm starting, and I have a full-time job, and I have this fantastic team I'm supporting, and it's just everything is just humming and going and doing really well. And then there are days when when I am
Mm.
on the couch, I don't want to do anything. I want to order pizza. I don't really want to like be a parent, to be honest. Like I don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
All I want to do is just like watch Fast Furious and just be like extremely lazy and unstimulated and just mentally. And I think what was a struggle for me, and I bet it is probably for a lot of people, is really looking at yourself in that sense and accepting that version of yourself.
Hmm.
And I think when you accept that version of yourself and you're looking at it and you're like, yeah, that is me, that is who I am, and just allowing yourself to be that, even if it's for not just a day but for a few days, like, and then you will come back, then you will go back to where you need to be, and where you like to be, and that's going to be a little bit more natural because you're not like, you're now accepted that, and you, first of all, and then maybe then you're going to start learning how to pick yourself up again and
Mm.
go back to being productive and go back to being all these different things, because then you can really face it, like, and really get present with it and what that does to you and how you are and how do you get out of it if you want to get out of it.
Wow. I think yeah, that's a lot to unpack because I know I've gone through it, like going through freelancing. And I think this is kind of a common thing that freelancers go through, and I think that's why it's people don't really last too long because it's like that lack of structure. You have like really good days and then really bad days where if you don't have that social structure put in place or accountability, like you just veg out and it's
Yeah.
super
Well,
hard.
and it's also like, is that because we have these sort of expectations that are put on us that we're supposed to work 9 to 5? Like,
Right. Yeah.
you can't. Like, it's been proven over and over and over again that like we're productive for 4 hours a day. That's what you are. The rest of it is
Really?
pretending like you're working. You know?
Okay. Oh, I never heard of that. Four hours.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's like there's a ton of studies on that. Yeah, like and it's like when you're really productive. You know?
Okay.
So maybe if we accept that hey, I'm gonna be really productive for 4 hours today, then that's a lot more realistic than for you to sit there and beat yourself over the fact that you're, from like you worked from 9 till 10, and then you had a phone call, and then it's kind of lunchtime already.
Yeah.
You had some food, and then you're like, oh, I'm feeling tired. I'm gonna sit on the couch for a little bit. I'm gonna watch something because I'm just taking a break. And then you're like, it's 3 p.m. and you're like, oh man, I have not done any like a lot of work today.
Mm-hmm.
And like, well, and then you're beating yourself up, and then you're trying to do some work because you feel like you have to.
Yeah.
That like, and not accept the fact that, well, like the schedule that you're on isn't working, and then maybe you can try something else. Maybe you can try, like Julie does these 45-minute sprints.
Yeah.
I think that's genius, and you're like, 45 minutes, I'm going to focus and deep focus. Or maybe, for some people it is going to be that from 9 till 12, I'm working, and then I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go work out. I'm going to do whatever. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do another 2 hours. And that is my schedule.
Okay.
And I think with freelancing, you just have to keep going and keep trying different things, experiment with different strategies, the times, like when are you kind of most productive? And just try that, because I think it just takes time for you to get into the routine that works for you.
Cool. I'm curious if you can share like do you block your chunks in like deep work in the morning or like in the afternoon, and then do you separate that from more like managerial meeting communication, or like do you separate that?
Yeah, so there's something that's called law of diminishing return.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with that,
Economics,
right? So, like, me, like I really do feel that. Like there's a book called Deep Work that I definitely recommend for people as well. That's really really
I'm
great.
just wrapping that up. It's a good one.
Yeah, and I think it's really around what works for you. Like when I was younger, I had a super productive 11 p.m. till 2 a.m. time, for example, and I was really great at night. And really for really nitty-gritty sort of UI detail work. Now I can tell you that if I need to do any designs, anything creative, I have to do that in the morning, and it's usually going to be from 9 till 12 or 1.
Okay.
And that goes into meetings, conversations, communication. This is when you start jamming with people, because I personally get like my juices flowing from talking to people, and so that gets me that energy that I get from other people gets me through the afternoon, that kind of that dip in energy. And then in the evening, if you do have that energy and you actually have a healthy lifestyle, like I'm finding that if I have a beer at like 7 p.m. and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do another couple hours, like it's actually not gonna be very productive. So I'm finding that it just doesn't work. But if it's something like meeting with the team and talking to people and kind of discussing strategy, having a couple beers is actually perfect, because it's getting you flowing. Anyway, but
I like that. No, thanks for sharing. I'm always curious on how people set up their routines and their schedules.
Yeah.
And if you're an extrovert like myself, that's perfect. So I think, it's good advice for me. All right, so we're wrapping up soon. Guys, if you have any questions, please write them down. With that, maybe do you want to share about like how, with your schedule, how do you balance like homeschooling? I know did you want to share a little about that?
Somebody messaged me today and they did have a question and they weren't able to join, so I'm hoping that they're going to watch the recording. And the question here was on so like you've got your partner, and like and yourself, and you're both working, and you've got a kid, and the kid is small, like 2 years old,
Mm.
1.5, they're not really going to sit and read a book. Like,
Right.
so what do you do, right? And so what I would suggest, if you're if you have found yourself in a similar sort of, environment, first of all, have a conversation with your partner on, because taking care of your kid becomes shift work, really, like, you're taking a shift, like, it makes sense that you would, like, interchange with each other, and so you would do a couple hours, then you break for a couple hours, and you're working, and your partner's taking care of your kid. And I'd say if you can have that conversation with your partner, and you both have equally important jobs and pays and all that stuff, and you can't really afford for one of you to go and leave or whatever, have a conversation about how you can structure your day-to-day sort of, hour by hour schedule. How does that work with your kids' naps, for example, like when they're sleeping, going for a walk, whatever? And then have a conversation with your HR or your manager about saying, hey, this is the plan that we can work out for both companies, and this is where we're at. Can we do that? And I think that would be probably the most straightforward way of doing that, because I don't see a company in this time right now that we're all going through this to not be understanding. Like, everybody, like, you always have a parent in every company. It doesn't matter. On executive team, you're always going to have people who understand exactly what you're going through. And I hope that people who don't have kids on that team can also be empathetic and understand that although they don't have kids, like, that's reality for those people.
Yeah.
And they will be understanding. Like, I don't really, and if they're not, then that tells you also a lot about the company you're working for. But I think, like, I had this conversation with my with the woman that works at HR actually just today, and we were talking about this, that this is something that's reality for people, and we have to be understanding about it. So really, that would be my advice. With homeschooling, I'm not there myself personally. Like, I'm not really sure how that works. I'm really curious to hear how people do it. And if you're in a position where you're already homeschooling, I think it becomes really fun, actually, if anything. Like, try to enjoy that. And yeah.
I think this is a time for parents to be really creative. Maybe not by choice, but I think they're finding new ways to keep their kids entertained and educated.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Yeah. But I think also, like, don't put a lot of pressure on yourself. Like, I know obviously schooling is important, but I think what's more important is for kids, like, they don't really know what's going on, and if they do, they're probably freaked out, and so, like, being there for them and doing things that, okay, sure, watching a movie is not necessarily curriculum, but you can even turn that experience into something really cool, which is, the types of questions that you can ask them after, and get them to tell you what happened, and tell you what was their favorite part, and give them something like a bit of a thing to watch for in the movie, maybe, and get them to sort of watch out for something, or every time they see red, they have to, like, do something crazy, and just having fun, I think that's what's really important, and giving them this period that we're going through right now not to be stressful for them, at least.
True.
And remember that, hey, this was so fun because mom and dad were home for a couple months. Like, when does that ever happen?
I was thinking that. I think, like, the kids, like, years from now, they're gonna look back and be like, hey, remember that time when, like, mom and dad was just home the whole time and it was, like, super fun or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I think they're gonna look back and this is gonna be such a rare time, or this could be the new norm. Who knows? But yeah. Interesting.
I do definitely think that the companies who working from home is going to become a lot more of a norm.
Yeah, I think we're not going to go back to how things were, for sure. It's going to be really interesting.
Because even those people who were resisting it are now seeing how amazing it actually is, even for them. And I think employees are not going to want to go back to companies who don't have working from home policy necessarily either. So it's going to become a retention strategy in a lot of ways, because now so many people have experienced it, and it's going to become one of those things that attract talent to your company.
Wow, yeah. It's gonna be really interesting. Awesome. Okay. Any other questions, guys? Let's see. Um, Kevin says so informative. Thank you. Um,
Thank you, Kevin.
yeah, just he made a comment. Companies who maintain strong and good culture will drive continuous value for their people. I think that was a comment back when we were talking about Hypermind.
Mm-hmm.
Eric S. Congrats on the kid. Nice seeing you, Karina.
Thank you. Thank
There's a huge market for process creation, implementation, organization in larger companies, especially mature ones. 100%. Lots of culture and power struggles between business areas and departments. Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, do you have any advice that you would give to like others like yourself who are going through this?
The one thing that I think we didn't really touch on, which I would just kind of leave hanging for you guys, is that I think at this time right now, we've talked a lot about, communication, for
Mm,
sure. And what I would say is especially for those of you who are struggling to advance maybe in your career, or you're in a job position and you want to be promoted, you want to get a senior, you want to get more senior, generally speaking, whatever job position you're in. So we use, in in person relationships quite a lot, to advance, right? And
mhm,
you're seen and you're heard, and you're in the office and you're talking to people. And I think if that's something is a strategy that works for you, you can definitely still do that sort of remotely.
mm,
But I think what's really a lot more powerful now, which sort of replaces that small talk that you would have with somebody in the kitchen, and the value that you can demonstrate to people by just being there and talking about the things you're working on. I want to encourage you guys to do something that I experienced myself a couple of weeks ago. My company Trader, we went through layoffs in the last 3 weeks, and
mhm,
well, sort of in last month, we had a couple of rounds of layoffs, and we had to do it because we are in a position where that was kind of the last resort, and we had to do it. And this was like a few hundred people,
wow.
and this was so hard. I mean, it was a lot harder for people who were temporarily laid off, which
Mhm,
is what really happened. But I think what I experienced at that point, and I'm thankful for the person who did it, she knows who did it, was, and like, she actually acknowledged me for just being there and providing the value that I did provide. And I actually thought that was genius, because, these rounds of acknowledgement that you can do and acknowledge people that are at your company, that are working with you, do that, like, say things that aren't just nice, but things that are true about them,
mm,
authentic to what the value that they're bringing. And for them to hear that, especially right now, especially at this time, doesn't matter if they're your manager or they're somebody you're managing, like, can be somebody you don't work with a lot, but anybody would appreciate that. And so that's sort of one thing
mm,
that I want to leave you with. And Josh, I acknowledge you for creating this space and creating this conversation, and putting your time and investing your time and your effort and your team for free. Really, you're not getting much out of this
mm.
except for the value that you're providing for the community that you're supporting. And I think that is so important right now. So acknowledge you.
Whew.
Thank you for bringing me here, and thank you for thank you for really having
Thank you.
great space and this opportunity. And I'm very grateful for being here, and for everybody who joined, that you guys are actually interested in hearing what I have to say. So I appreciate all of you, and
Awesome.
you especially.
Thank you. I actually, that's great that you shared. I wanted to acknowledge you for just being such a powerful woman. Just being like a fairly new mom, being, accomplishing all that you have, and just being an auto trader, and then also starting now, launching your new company. I think that is amazing. Maybe one more thing, if you can share, I know that was another topic we want to touch on, but maybe you can share on like empowerment for women in the workplace. I know that's a huge passion of yours, and that's something you really embody. Yeah, if you can share a little bit about that, and then we can wrap it up.
Yeah. So women that are listening to me, and I think just generally speaking, I think I there's a couple of things that you can do, and I think empowerment really starts with understanding where you stand. What is your starting position? Where are you?
Mm.
Who you are and what you bring, and not trying to be something else. Not trying to be just you are who you are, and you have to be who you are. And really starting with that, and then what is it that you are, you can turn that into your advantage. I For a lot of people, I'll take parenting as one of the things that a lot of companies, and I'll be frank about that, are making will have an issue with, because they will think that parent can dedicate as much of them to their job. I hear that a lot. Or, oh, she's a mom, she's going to be distracted. I'm a mom, and I talk about that front and center. It's a part of my resume. That's something that I put up front,
Mm.
and I turn that into my strength, because if I can do parenting and a full-time job and start a company and do all these other initiatives, then man, there was really like try try to match that. And I think that kind of attitude of I'm going to turn what you think is my weakness into my strong sort of side of what I'm bringing to the table, my strength. I think that's very important. So look at the things that, what is it that you do? What is it that you're dealing with? And how does that help you deal with other things? Whatever adversity you might experience is always has it usually, I mean, with some things it might not, but there will be something good that will come out of that. And so that's sort of like a blanket advice that I'm going to give you. I use
Hmm.
sort of parenting as an example of that. And then, a couple other things which I've shared before that I think are very important is communication. Being able to communicate yourself, your thoughts, your decisions very clearly is extremely important. And that's just how you talk and what you say. How you talk is, it's finish your sentences, don't just mumble, right? Like
Mm.
pause, make a point. Don't be afraid to get a response. Stuff like that, which there's a lot on just presenting yourself and how you actually communicate, I think is very important.
Hmm.
But I think also what you say is we as women, and I hate to generalize from this, like I do really hate to generalize, but in this case, I think we might doubt our decisions a little bit more than men. I'm not really sure. I think maybe men also doubt their decisions. They just maybe
Hmm.
don't show it as much. I'm not sure. I didn't really. I haven't never really got into it so deeply.
Hmm.
But I want to say that when you make a decision, however much you doubt that, like just stick to it. Like be assertive. Make a decision. Stick to it. If you make a mistake, you make a mistake. Like it doesn't. So what, right? You move on. You experience. You learn from that, and you keep going. And that fearlessness, I think, of making a mistake and being bold with the decisions that you make is goes a really long way. Like that is the one single trait that I have developed in myself. I wasn't always like this. That has advanced me over and over and over again in so many companies. And I think that is some people can say that it's some people can look at that and say that, oh, you're just whatever, you're so bossy, you're so bitchy, whatever. Like, they can put a label on that.
Right.
You can
Yeah.
put a label on it that you're just assertive and you're bold and you know what you want and you know where you're going.
Mm.
I think that's the part that if you can foster that in yourself as a woman will take you a long way.
Wow. That was some juicy insights. Very, very, very awesome. Thank you so much. That's great.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, I guess that wraps up today's interview. Thank you so much. I'm gonna switch over and provide, let's see here. One moment, just gonna switch screens and I'll provide your information. So if you guys want to get a hold of Karina, you can reach out to her on Instagram, karina.daukaeva. Visit her on her website, www.hyperminds.io. And thank you for joining. Next talk is tomorrow. So this week is packed. We have 3 in a row. So tonight, tomorrow, and Thursday. So tomorrow is a really, really exciting talk. We have Conrad Lin. He is co-founder of FinTrueX and an amazing Notioneer. So if you guys like to use Notion, he's found a way to gamify your life and just turned it into something that's really, really amazing. And also he is the founder of CoX3 Community, which is a group of individuals who are all about changing the world for good. So stick around for tomorrow at 7 p.m. and thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys. Have a good night.